In the unforgiving Arizona desert, a vital cattle trail becomes the battleground for a deep-rooted clash between a lone cowboy and a fierce Hopi tribe defending their sacred land. Tala's uncle, leading over 200 warriors, stands as an unyielding guardian, determined to stop what he sees as an invasion. But when James and Tala bridge their divide with honesty and courage, an unexpected alliance changes everything. Just wait until you discover how this tense standoff transforms into a powerful story of respect, and why justice ultimately triumphs in the end. The first light of dawn crept slowly over the rugged Arizona horizon, casting long shadows across the cracked earth and sparse sagebrush. James McAllister sat beside a flickering campfire, the warm glow fighting the chill that still clung to the desert air. The solitude of the trail was his constant companion. Years of wandering through endless, unforgiving terrain had taught him to trust no one but his own instincts. His cattle needed water and rest, and so did he. As he took a slow sip from his battered tin cup, the soft rustle of footsteps caught his attention. From the edge of the clearing emerged Tala, a Hopi hunter whose gaze was steady but guarded. The tension between them was palpable, a weight carried by the land itself. Two worlds, drawn tight by history and hardship, stood facing one another. Neither moved to speak first. Years of cautious suspicion hung between them like a dense fog. James's mind raced with simple but urgent needs: to protect his herd, to survive the harsh realities of this land. Tala's purpose was no less vital, a protector of traditions and sacred ground bound to his people and the stories etched deep into the canyons and mesas. Yet beneath the wary glances and unspoken doubts, something subtle shifted. When James offered a cup of coffee, a small gesture in a world that often demanded harshness, Tala accepted with a quiet nod. The act was more than sharing a drink. It was an opening, a fragile bridge between two souls forged by hardship and resilience. In that brief moment, they glimpsed something unexpected in each other, a reflection of strength and honor that went beyond the barriers of tribe and settler. The sun climbed higher, but the warmth between them felt different. Cautious curiosity, the first fragile thread of understanding woven across a landscape scarred by mistrust. By the time the sun reached its peak, the fragile calm that had settled between James and Tala began to crack. The distant rumble of voices and the pounding of feet on dry earth shattered the stillness. From the horizon emerged a growing force. Over 200 Hopi warriors, their figures dark against the shimmering heat waves of the desert. At their forefront stood Tala's uncle, a towering figure known among the tribes as a fierce guardian of their ancestral lands. James's heart tightened in his chest. He knew this trail was more than just a path through the desert. It was the lifeline for his herd, the thread that connected him to a future he was desperate to hold on to. Yet now it was clear. This was no mere roadblock. It was a challenge, a stand against the steady march of settlers that threatened to erase centuries of heritage. Tala's face was set with quiet determination, the same fierce resolve that had been passed down through generations. His loyalty was unshakable, rooted in a deep commitment to protect the sacred ground that held the stories and spirits of his people. His eyes flickered with a mixture of sorrow and defiance as he faced the swelling crowd behind him. The air between the two men thickened, charged with the weight of everything at stake. Around them, the warriors formed a solid line, weapons ready but calm, their presence a testament to their collective will. James and Tala stood on the edge of the brewing storm, their personal bond caught in the eye of a rising tempest. Neither wanted bloodshed, yet both knew the fragile peace hung by a thread. Every glance, every breath, carried the silent question. Would they find a way to bridge their worlds, or would the mounting tension shatter what little hope had taken root at dawn? Under the relentless glare of the midday sun, the atmosphere remained taut, every second heavy with anticipation. Yet, in a surprising and delicate moment, Tala stepped forward, his voice steady but earnest as he addressed his uncle. With words measured and sincere, he urged patience, to listen before letting anger decide the day's fate. Reluctantly, the uncle nodded, signaling the warriors to hold their position but lower their weapons. A hush fell over the gathering, the desert wind whispering through the silent crowd. James and Tala found a small clearing, shaded by the sparse branches of a resilient mesquite tree, and began to speak quietly, their voices carrying the weight of experience and unspoken understanding. James spoke first, his voice rough but heartfelt. He shared the hardships he had endured, the unforgiving droughts, the constant threat to his cattle, and the loneliness of a life spent chasing survival across these vast, unforgiving lands. More than anything, he expressed his respect for the land, a land that was not just a resource to him, but a home he wished to honor. Tala listened intently before offering his own stories, tales of his people's deep connection to the earth, stories passed down through generations. He spoke of loss and perseverance, of sacred places threatened and traditions fiercely guarded. His words painted a portrait of a culture struggling to hold on to identity in a changing world. Around them, the warriors remained alert, but began to soften, the rigid lines of confrontation blurring ever so slightly. The raw honesty shared between James and Tala wove a fragile thread of trust. Hatred, once thick in the air, gave way to a tentative interest. Admiration blossomed. Not just for the courage each man showed, but for the convictions that shaped them. The tide of emotion shifted quietly, like the desert breeze turning from a scorching gust to a gentle caress. Fear and anger loosened their grip, replaced by an unexpected, fragile hope, a hope that peace might grow from the very soil where conflict had seemed inevitable. As the fiery sun began its slow descent, painting the vast Arizona sky with hues of amber and crimson, a profound transformation unfolded beneath its glow. James McAllister and Tala stood side by side, no longer strangers caught in the web of mistrust, but partners united by a shared vision. Their voices carried calm determination as they forged an alliance born from the day's trials and newfound understanding. James promised to guide his cattle along the trail with care, ensuring their passage would no longer threaten the sacred lands Tala and his people held dear. In return, Tala pledged to protect that path, allowing safe passage as long as respect for the land and traditions remained unwavering. Behind them, the crowd of over 200 Hopi warriors slowly lowered their weapons. It was not a gesture of surrender, but one of respect and acknowledgement, an unspoken acceptance that compassion and dialogue had replaced conflict. The weight of old grievances lifted, if only for a moment, making space for something entirely new, a fragile but powerful bond. In that quiet desert evening, both men felt a deep catharsis, the release of tension built from years of suspicion and fear. The cycle of conflict, which had long shadowed their lives, was broken by a simple act of understanding and trust. Their alliance symbolized more than just a truce. It was a bridge connecting two worlds that had once seemed destined to clash. As James mounted his horse, preparing to continue his journey, he carried with him something far more valuable than the cattle trailing behind. He carried a story of transformation, a story of how hearts, once closed by fear and division, could open to empathy and partnership. It was a story of hope, reminding all who heard it that even the deepest divides could be crossed when motives are understood and respect guides the way.